Hi, welcome back to GMBN. I'm Neil, and in today's video we're going to talk about cheap or even free upgrades that you can do to your bike. First one, you might even have these sat in your workshop or in your garage. You should have kept these. If you've got a bike and it comes with air forks, often you get this little pouch, and inside you've got these plastic spacers. These can screw together, and what these are air volume spacers. So you can add these to your air fork or even take them away, and that really alters the way that your suspension fork works. And that can be a really sweet upgrade, getting your bike to work better for you for no cost at all. If you didn't keep these, you threw these in the bin, don't worry, you can buy these from shops, super cheap. So what they do, if you add volume spacers, it's going to make that fork more progressive the further into the travel you go. So if you're a big or an aggressive rider, you might find that you bottom out your suspension fork too easy, then adding some of these can really help you out. Or if you're a lighter rider and you find that you don't go far into your travel, your rubber ring just doesn't get pushed to the top, then you probably find that your fork has already got one in. So simple process, you need to let the air out. Check out GMBN Tech, there's full instructions on how to do that, but it's super easy, 5-minute job, and you can tweak your bike and fully upgrade it to make it ride better for you. Frame protection is a great way to look after your bike, keep it nice, not get scratched, and hopefully as well, if you ever come to sell your bike, you can take it off and you'll get better money hopefully for a bike that's been well looked after. So there's a few different places you can do this. One main one is kind of underneath the bike. If you're riding rocky terrain, stuff can flick up, smack under here, sort of that bit just on the down tube where it meets the bottom bracket. If you're doing uplifts or you're hooking your bike over the back of a pickup truck, you find they can get really scratched here. Cheap way of doing this is using old tires. You cut off a piece of old tire. It's kind of a bodge because you have to zip tie that to the bike. Good for heavy duty stuff, like even on those pickup trucks, they can really wreck the bottom of your bike. A nicer, neater way of doing it is getting something like this mastic tape. This is made by, was it 3M Scotch tape? It's kind of flexible, sticky on the other side. You can cut this to fit, stick it on the downside of your bike. Many bikes actually, I can see on this, my Canyon Stoic, it's got a bit of clear frame protection there already, so it doesn't need much added to it. So that's protecting it from rocks, bumps. The other main way bikes get scratched up is by cables. So cables rubbing on the head tube or on the back of full suspension bikes when that suspension moves. So you've got a few different options here. You've got those clear sort of stickers. They often come with bikes, or you get them free in magazines or get them super cheap from bike shops. They work really nicely. So obviously stick them to your frame where the cable is going to rub. And again, you can pull those off or replace them if you want to. Another option, I guess, is using stickers. Maybe not quite as neat because they're not clear, but I'm sure you've got a sticker stashed somewhere. Get your frame protected. Or there's more specialist options, people like Ride Wrap or Invisiframe, that will sell you a custom kit that will fit your bike, fit it really nicely. Some of them, like they say, Invisiframe, you can hardly tell it's on there. It does a really good job of protecting them from scratches. If you want a really nice upgrade to customize your bike yourself, think about changing the colors. You could go the whole hog like Rich recently did and sprayed his frame up. For me, that seems like a lot of work. I don't want to get too messy doing it. A nice option is to get custom decals and graphics made for your bike. You can do Google searches. There are bike-specific companies doing this, like Invisiframe, Ride Wrap. You can buy custom graphics for your bike. Check out my FSA. You can see that's kind of holographic. I don't know if the light shines off there. It's proper cool. They look silver, but they're actually holographic. Or just get some cool custom stickers like your name, stick them on the frame. Tidying your cables, I think, is a job that needs doing to any bike. It changes it from looking like an amateur's bike to a pro's bike. You never see pro with loads of super long cables. They're always super neat. So different ways of doing that. First one is to make sure they're exactly the right length. I've let myself down a little bit with this bike. I feel like they're a bit long, but I will always try and make them as short as I possibly can, but also obviously give me that room to steer and for the bars to move around in crashes, so you don't want to go too crazy with that, but I definitely think it makes the bike look nicer. Hopefully it's going to help with your frame protection as well, so you're not rubbing cables everywhere. And then it's a case of trying to sort of tie them together, I think. You might find some bikes, like Canyon comes with these nice little clips, so it'll clip these two cables that run parallel, so that's what I'm trying to do as well. Get them as short as I can, but also run right next to each other. and then either clip them together with these nice little options. You've got obviously the zip tie option you can do, and not quite a nice way of doing that. Rather than just strapping a cable all the way around, is you go around one cable and then you use a washer as a kind of spacer and then wrap it around the next cable. That's really nice and neat. Or lastly, and probably my favorite, is kind of the most time consuming and most work to do, get some heat shrink. So I've done this on a few of my bikes, especially with a rear brake and a dropper cable that run parallel right next to each other. You have to take the hose out of the brake, which means you're gonna have to probably bleed it, and obviously the cable out of the dropper post, which is kind of the easiest way of doing it. And basically slide this down the cables. I often actually spray a bit of silicone or something inside there so the cables slide nicely. Get it right up to the frame, cut it, and then you need to get a lighter or something to do what it says on the tin. Heat shrink it and it'll bring it really tight around the hoses and it'll give you a super neat finish. Here's for one of my classics. When I used to be a pro rider, I sell my bikes at the end of the year. You want to make it look nice. I don't really do this nowadays, but what you need to do, often there's black parts on your bike that you've probably scratched because you've fallen off or you've leant it against something. So get yourself a Sharpie, go around your scratches, and you basically just colour them in. Doesn't last forever. It's permanent though, these Sharpies, but you'd be surprised how long they do last. Probably after a few months of washing the bike, you might need to go around and touch them up again. But especially if you've got some big silver scratches anyway, just colour them in with a Sharpie. And then, what I used to call the BS spray, silicone spray, is the best stuff for making your bike look all shiny and new. I do use this actually now. Every time I wash my bike, I dry it and then use some of this on the frame. It makes it look amazing. If you're a racer and you mount number plates to your bike, normally you just zip tie them around and they kind of bulge out and don't look that good. These little zip ties are amazing. So I got these off eBay, a little zip tie with basically a bolt hole at the top. So you go around your bars, as you'd expect, and then you just make a couple of little holes in your number plate, and I use disc brake bolts. So that's the right size to sort of kind of ream their own thread as they go in. And you use those bolts to mount your number plate with a couple of spaces to the front of your bike, super neat, and it kind of holds your plate out a little bit away from your bolts on the front of the stem as well, and looks really good. Now for what I think is relatively cheap upgrade, what about getting some tubeless valves to match the colour scheme on your bike? Might sound a bit over the top, but I think they look cool. Loads of different options here, but Markov do tubeless valves in so many different colours. The pink is a bit jazzy for me, especially with my red grips and the green frame and the blue pedals. So I don't know, maybe I need to find a different colour, but super simple, swap them out. You even find with these tubeless valves, you've got a little valve core remover there as well. So might be something you don't have. I think these front mudguards are an amazing little upgrade for the money. They work really well. It's surprising how much that keeps the mud out from flicking up and hitting your eyes. And I think they look pretty good as well, to be honest, for a mudguard. Pretty cheap to do. I have them on most of my bikes, but I've never done this, but I've talked about it a few times. I'm sure you can make one of these really easily. You've just got to find a thin piece of flexible plastic that's going to do it. I'll take this off just to show you the kind of shape of it. I guess the first thing you want to do is make a template out of something, paper or card or whatever, and then try and cut it out of plastic. So there you go, super simple bit of plastic sheet. I'd say it's probably about 1 mil or 1.5 mil thick. And then all you need to do is make sure you get the holes in the right place to tie around your fork arch around the legs. The job's a good one. Last but not least, a fresh set of grips can make your bike look really shiny and new, I think. Also, you might be able to get them to match your colour scheme, but biggest thing I think is sometimes you'll just find a set of grips that you love and they become your favourite set of grips. It makes the bike feel better. And yeah, you might need to try a few different pairs to try and find that perfect shape and size for your hands, because quite often, like these ergon grips come in different diameters, small or large. So definitely experiment a little bit and try and find your perfect set of grips. There you go, there's some pretty cheap upgrades, even some are free if you've got some of that stuff already. Of course, head over to GMBN Tech for some more in-depth videos and let us know your favourite hacks or upgrades in the comments down below.